Let's talk site prep for a few minutes. To your left is going to be the drain field for this house. When we did the site development plan here in Pierce County, we drew on this orange construction fence as a way to prevent people from driving onto the drain field area. Because this is drawn on the site development plan, it's something the county will check for when they come out to do their first inspection. The first scheduled inspection will be for the rebar and the foundation. What we don't want to have happen is they come out and say the rebar is good, but you can't proceed because your site prep, your wastewater runoff plan, your orange construction fence, your black plastic for wastewater runoff isn't in place. And that's what ends up happening if you're not careful and you don't follow the rules and you don't follow the site development plan that you probably created or had someone else create for you. In any case, this orange fence was 50 feet and I have it starting way back there and it runs up here. I've got to fix a few sections here and then add a little bit more. And this was the only fence on the site development plan. I'm going to add a bunch of other stuff to this piece of property as we get it ready to go, and that is more along the lines of to appease the county. I've built in 3 different counties in western Washington, and every single time I've built, I've had minor hiccups with the individual inspector's interpretation of what wastewater runoff and prevention, driving in certain areas, means. And I've learned that the few $100s you'll spend on black plastic and orange fence is worth it in the long run to not incur delays, especially if you're using a contractor to build your house. We're going to go ahead and get this fence fixed up and add a little bit more, and then we'll move on to some other things. So let's get started with that. So it's really as simple as that. I've installed this a few times and you'll learn a few tricks as you do it. I find running a thin stick down the middle helps me roll it out. There are several different types of this orange fence. You can see how wide these center sections are, and the staples go through them very well and they don't split the plastic. And you're not trying to search for the thinner stuff. It's just been my observation that the 50-foot rolls with the wider webbing work a lot better for me. I'm sure there's different opinions out there on that, but this is what works for me. So that orange fence is to stop anybody from driving into the drain field area before we get it, and after we get it installed. So I'll end up having to take this down, having them install the drain field during the build, and then I'll have to put it back up once the drain field's installed. I'll probably utilize this stuff a little bit around the septic tanks also to prevent anybody from driving over the septic tanks inadvertently. So like I said, this is the only required set of orange construction fence, but I am going to put it up in a few other areas just because I know it'll make the county inspectors happy and it'll attempt to not cause any delays later on. Let's go ahead and move on. We're going to go check out the silt fence, which is not on the site development plan, but we're going to install it anyway. Okay, so try to give you a little perspective here. So this is the primary dirt pile from the dig out from the house, and this is the silt fence we have in a row. I have spent a lot of time doing grading to get it so we don't have very much standing water out here, and I'll show in a little while maybe how I've dug a few small trenches to even eliminate the small puddles from forming. The important thing, and the thing that the county always looks at, is if you're allowing sediment or silt to run off into the bushes or specifically onto other people's property, which is really against the rules. So to eliminate any delays or the county getting upset about silt, just because I don't have it on my site development plan doesn't mean the county can't make me put it in. So what I'm going to do is install silt fence along this section of trees, kind of around behind where the dirt pile is at. because it's very evident that the ground slopes this direction. So this would prevent any rainwater or runoff from the construction site going into the bushes. This is an attempt to appease the county because, like I said, it's not on the site development plan, but we're going to install it anyway. It's one of those preventative measures that it takes a little bit of time, a little bit of money, and it saves you delays and hassle in the long run. I highly recommend that you really look at the site you're working on, and if you have big hills or even small hills, you have to install silt fence, even if it's not on your plan, in Western Washington, in the 3 counties I've built in. The states you live in may be slightly different or not require any of this stuff. I will say that it's unlikely in today's age and counties' engagement with construction. You probably need some sort of water mitigation. In this case, we use silt fence and black plastic, which we'll get to in a few minutes. But for right now, we're going to go ahead and install the silt fence. So for the proper installation of silt fence, you need to dig a small trench. In this case, I use my tractor for most of this where I could reach, and I pulled the dirt, and there's a dirt pile underneath of this fence. Once we get that trench done, we put the stakes right in the middle of the trench, and then the bottom of the black cloth, plasticky cloth, gets flopped down into the trench, and then dirt gets put over the top of that, and that's what makes the water basically separate out from the silt, and then the silt settles against the fence, and then your water dissipates. At least that's how it's supposed to work. So you can see on the fence here, the bottom flap is not stapled down. So we need to drive this stake into the ground a good 6 inches, 6-8 inches past the bottom of the black plastic. So we'll basically just start right here, and now the plastic touching the ground, but I want to go another 6 inches, or 4 to 6 inches I should say, because I have this dirt that needs to flop back over the top of it. So now I have the black plastic sitting on the ground. It's important you pull the fence tight also. You don't want to end up with loose fence. It doesn't do its job. Now that we have the silt fence in place, you can see how that flap hangs down across the bottom. I'm going to very carefully use my tractor and set small amounts of dirt across there, and then back blade out to set that down in the ground where it belongs. So this is sort of the final product of what this is sort of the final product of what the silt fence should look like once it's installed. It's nice and tight all the way down to the full length of where it's at. You're down past the blue and red line, and the dirt is covering that completely. You've flopped it down in the ditch, backfilled over the top, and smoothed everything out so that if water runs against it, the water hits this and catches all the silt, and the water runs through the fence. Like I said, it's better to put this in before you have your first inspection than to get delayed when they see this type of thing and delay you due to wastewater runoff with the potential to end up in the bushes or onto somebody else's property. This site is particularly flat, and I've still gone ahead and installed it here. We are on 2.5 acres, and all of the wastewater would actually just end up on our property. However, the county doesn't look at it that way. They look at it as you're potentially putting silt on top of native vegetation and you're killing the vegetation. So that is what the fence is for. This is the one spot where the water kind of all drains to. Well, this is part of soil stabilization, wastewater runoff, site development, however you want to look at that. This black plastic is required in Pierce County, Kitsap County, Mason County during periods of winter time. There is specific months that it's required. However, I will say I've been hit in the past on an exceptionally rainy spring time, well, late spring, where they made me put it down anyway, even though it wasn't written down. It's because the water was running off and causing other issues, but that's not the point. Put the plastic on, don't fight it, just do it. It'll save you a lot of hassle in the long run. I want to give you guys an overview of what the site looks like. So right in front of you, you have the orange construction fence, and then that is the area where the drain field is going to go. We've got piles of dirt here, and here we also have the burn pile back there. The burn piles are being kept dry so we can burn it off eventually. Where the tractor is sitting is the house hole. That's where the house is going to go. In the background back there, we have the pump house on your left, and then the silt fence is back there behind that pile of dirt and right behind the tractor. If you follow that around, you'll see the next pile of dirt. That's the major pile. That is the most of the dirt we have stockpiled for backfill. Bring you around a little bit more. I've got my ladder up for my game cam. Got the temporary power pole and my trailer out here for storage. We've got our porta potty. Got to have that on site. Got the driveway entrance here where my truck is sitting. We have brought in heavy gravel to make that a little more easily accessible and no mud issues there. And then you'll see we have some more orange construction fence stacked around next to the driveway there. Well, this is going to wrap this one up. Our three major takeaways from this are: keep your dirt piles covered, even if it's outside of season. I mean, if it's in dead middle of summer and it's blazing hot and it's not going to rain, that's a different story. But if it's any time where you could get some rain, keep them covered. It'll keep the county happy. So that's one. The second is silt fence. Put it up. If you have sloped property, you're probably going to have to put it on your site development plan. Even if you don't put it on your site development plan, install it anywhere you think it could be an issue. This is a very slight slope on a very flat piece of property, and I still installed silt fence. This will keep you out of trouble with the county. Make sure you put some in, even if you don't think it's necessary. It's a few dollars, but it's a huge hassle saved in the long run. So that's number 2. Well, this is the final one, the orange construction fence. This section here is on my site development plan, and it's to designate that I have the drain field, a protected area, something where I don't want people to drive machinery or park trucks on or put construction lumber or any type of material on. You can also see in the background I have another section behind my truck there, and that was just extra piece I had left over. I installed it. It helps out in the long run. This is number 3 though, of the 3 important things that you could take away from this video. These 3 things will keep you out of trouble with the county. Put a little bit of effort into this type of stuff. It shows them you're putting effort into it, and they will leave you alone, hopefully. Depends on your inspector. But overall, these are the important things for the wastewater runoff and the site development. I hope you guys got something out of this. There's a lot to take away here. Definitely check out some of these other videos. I'll have the construction series for this house, my house build, and the tractor series. Please hit that subscribe button. It always helps me out in the long run. Until next time, thanks for watching.